I was never their daughter, I was their ATM. But the day I discovered the truth, everything changed. What followed wasn't just betrayal, it was the unraveling of my entire identity and the painful, powerful journey to reclaim it. This is the story of how I cut off my own family and finally found freedom. The April rain beat relentlessly against the windows of my Burlington townhouse, casting blurred shadows that danced across the hardwood floor of my home office. I sat at my desk frozen, the phone pressed to my ear. My mother's voice thundered through the speaker, so loud and sharp I had to hold it away. "Don't you dare pretend you didn't know what you were doing," she screamed. "We're family. You can't just abandon us because your feelings got hurt." Her voice echoed in my skull, thick with rage and disbelief. I stared blankly at the screen, the torrent outside mirroring the storm inside me. Everything I thought I understood about my family had crumbled in seconds, all because of a single, misfired text message. It wasn't even meant for me. My name is Jordan Wright. I'm 35 years old, the founder and CEO of Right Path Marketing, a consultancy I built from scratch. I had poured my 20s into the business, sacrificing relationships, vacations, and any semblance of a social life to make it thrive. 5 years ago, when the company finally took off, I made what I thought was a noble decision. I began sending my parents money every month, $3,000, like clockwork. They'd always struggled financially, and I wanted to ensure their retirement years were secure and dignified. But yesterday, a text changed everything. My younger brother, now I can barely say his name without bile rising, let's call him Kyle, sent a message meant for his private group chat with our parents to the family chat instead. Just a few careless words lit the match. The ATM just sent another 300. My hands had trembled as I stared at the screen. Surely, it was a misunderstanding. Surely, he was talking about something else. But then came the reply from my father, Charles. "Lamau, keep the gravy train running. She's too stupid to realize we're using her." Then from my mother, Diane, "Just bought those new golf clubs you wanted." Jordan would flip if she knew her money was going to those instead of Medica. And it didn't stop there. Screenshots flooded in years of their private conversations. Discussions on how to manipulate me, strategies to guilt me, jokes about how easily I could be played. They weren't hiding it. They were reveling in it. Kyle must have realized what he did, because suddenly, the messages disappeared. But it was too late. I'd seen everything. I hadn't slept. My phone had been lighting up non-stop since. Charles swore it was a joke. Diane accused me of being too sensitive. Kyle insisted he was just playing along to stay in their good graces, but the truth was undeniable. They had exploited me. A sharp knock pulled me out of my daze. I walked slowly to the door, my fingers still gripping my phone tightly. Through the peephole, I saw Kyle standing on my porch, soaked by the rain, his expression a mixture of guilt and desperation. I opened the door but didn't move to let him in. "What do you want?" "Jordan, please. Can I come in? I can explain." "Explain? What?" I raised the phone, showing him the now saved screenshot. "How you and our parents have been laughing behind my back for years, telling me you needed money for medical bills and broken furnaces while you went on cruises and bought new cars." His face twisted. "It's not what it looks like. Don't insult my intelligence. I've been sending $3,000 every month. That's $36,000 a year, Kyle. Do you even know what that adds up to?" He looked away. "I know it's a lot. $180,000. And that's not even counting the extra money I sent when you claimed Dad needed surgery, or when the furnace supposedly broke. I skipped vacations. I bought secondhand furniture. I lived lean to make sure they were comfortable. Jordan, they're old. They just wanted to enjoy their 65, not 95. Dad's out golfing with clubs I paid for, and they're living in a condo by the lake while telling me they couldn't make rent." The rain pelted harder as silence fell between us. "They need your help," he whispered. "Not anymore." My voice was calm now. "You all used me, and now that the game's up, you come here begging?" "No, I'm done. Please." I closed the door. That night, I stayed up, staring at my financial records. Every transaction, every lie, every time I said no to myself so I could say yes to them. I opened my laptop and called Megan Lewis, my best friend since college, and, fortunately, A brilliant attorney. They did what? She shouted into the phone after I finished. I know. I was an idiot. No, Jordan. You were kind. That's not the same. But now it's time to get legally unentangled. First, we need a list of everything you've done financially for them. Second, we separate them from anything with your name on it. Accounts, policies, all of it. The list took me all night. Transfers, medical reimbursements, the secret investment account, the premium insurance policy, life insurance beneficiaries, Kyle's student loan payments. By sunrise, I had a 12-page document that read like a crime scene inventory. 12 hours later, the first domino fell. I called the bank, Vermont Community Bank. This is Samuel. Hi, I need to close an investment account under my name. It was for Robert and Diane Wright. After verifying my identity, Samuel confirmed I had full control. The account had been a gift. I was free to close it and have the balance 42,680 returned to me. Step 1. Done. I canceled the automatic transfers next. Called the health insurance company. Removed them from my policy. Miguel, the rep I spoke to, was kind. He didn't need the full story, but I gave him just enough. Been there, he said. You're not alone. Step 2. Done. By noon, the life insurance was updated. Beneficiaries changed to a children's charity. The only tie left was Kyle's student loan. I hesitated. He seemed remorseful. Maybe. But then I got his text. Dad says his prescription got denied at the pharmacy. What did you do? Not a word of apology. Just panic about the money. I typed back. Their consequences are not my problem anymore. Then I sent a final email to my parents. Attached is the document. Laid out every dollar, every lie. Robert and Diane attached is a comprehensive account of the financial support I have provided over the past 5 years. 221800, effective immediately. You are removed from all policies and financial entanglements. The investment account has been closed. Any future contact should only concern repayment. Otherwise, consider this my final communication. Jordan Righty hit send. Then I blocked their numbers. The silence that followed was the most peaceful I'd known in years, until the doorbell rang. I stood frozen as the doorbell rang again, sharp and insistent. I didn't move. From behind the curtains, I watched Charles and Diane, my parents, and Kyle fidgeting on my porch. The rain had subsided, but their clothes clung to them, drenched and desperate. I didn't open the door. Instead, I dialed Megan. They're here, I whispered. Do not let them in. She replied firmly. Once they're inside, it gets harder emotionally, legally. Everything. My father's voice boomed from the other side of the door. Jordan, we know you're in there. You can't just cut us off without talking to us. I tapped out a message to Kyle. I have nothing to say. Please leave, or I will call the police. I saw him glance at his phone, then turned to show the message to Diane. They argued. Charles turned red in the face, pacing. Eventually, they left, but not before my father shouted, You'll regret this, Jordan. We're family. You can't abandon us. The irony wasn't lost on me. They had abandoned me first years ago when they chose greed over love. I exhaled a shaky breath. The first battle was over, but the war was far from done. The next morning, my inbox began filling with emails. Diane sent the first, a long-winded plea disguised as guilt-laced manipulation. Your father's health is declining. His blood pressure has been through the roof since you did this. You're punishing us for jokes, family jokes. We need to talk. Then Charles, this childish behavior needs to stop. You're tearing this family apart. Kyle's was shorter. They can't afford the mortgage, Jordan. Please don't let them lose the condo. Can't we fix this? I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded everything to Megan. 3 days later, a certified letter arrived. Inside was a handwritten note from Diane. Jordan, we don't understand why you're doing this to us. Yes, we made some jokes, but that's what families do. Your father's medication costs $450 a month without insurance. We can't afford the mortgage. We might lose the condo. Is that really what you want for your aging parents? I nearly laughed at the term aging. They were 65 and healthier than I was. But the medication claim stuck with me. I picked up the phone and called the pharmacy, pretending to be Diane. Hi. I'm calling about my husband, Charles Wright. I just wanted to check how much is his heart medication without insurance. The pharmacist didn't hesitate. It's $42 for a 30-day supply, ma'am, not $450. Another lie. A week later, Kyle intercepted me outside my office. Jordan, please. They're falling apart. Dad's talking about bankruptcy. I tried to step around him. That's not my problem. How can you be so cold? He asked, genuinely looking hurt. Because cold is all I've got left. Real parents don't manipulate their child for money. Real siblings don't laugh while doing it. They made mistakes. Stop calling them mistakes. Mistakes are accidents. This was deliberate. For years, Kyle looked tired, defeated. They're talking about moving in with me. I gave a humorless smile. Welcome to consequences. 2 weeks into my self-imposed exile, I started therapy. Dr. Lillian Bennett had the steady voice of someone who'd heard it all before. Her office was cozy, with dark wood furniture, plush chairs, and warm lamplight. Safe, neutral. You're grieving, she said after our second session. Grieving? But they're not dead. You're grieving the family you thought you had, the version of them that never existed. And the role you played, the generous daughter, the provider, that identity is gone too. I nodded slowly. It's like I built my entire sense of worth around being useful to them. Dr. Bennett's eyes were kind. And now you're learning that your worth was never dependent on their approval. I left her office lighter, not healed, but healing. A few days later, my uncle Vince called. Vince was Charles's estranged younger brother. We hadn't spoken in years. I answered out of curiosity. Jordan, it's Vince. I just got a weird call from your dad. He asked if they could move in with us for a while. Said you'd cut them off. I laughed bitterly. Did he tell you why? No, so I figured I should hear your side. I told him everything about the text, the screenshots, the years of financial lies. When I finished, Vince was silent. I'm not surprised, he said finally. Your dad tried to pull the same thing on me decades ago. Said he needed money to keep the house. Turned out he wanted to buy a boat. I blinked. You knew? I tried to warn people, but no one listens when the con is that convincing. They fooled you because you have a good heart, Jordan. Don't let them take that from you. His words were a balm I hadn't known I needed. I told them no, he added. Told them to downsize, live within their means. Your dad hung up on me. After the call, I sat on my balcony, wrapped in a blanket, sipping tea. For the first time, I didn't feel ashamed. I felt validated. The next few weeks brought a steady stream of updates from Kyle. Mom and Dad are moving into my spare room. Next week, they're selling the condo. Dad's furious. His car just got repossessed. Each message stirred a flicker of guilt. But guilt was no longer a compass I followed. Then came a final attempt. An email from a woman named Sarah, a family friend. Jordan, I'm reaching out on behalf of your parents. They've lost everything. Your father's health is suffering. They've applied for food stamps. They just want to talk. To apologize. I stared at the screen. My finger hovered over the reply button. But I didn't write back. Instead, I hit delete. They had chosen this path. I had simply stepped off it. 6 months after I cut them off, I returned from a business trip to find them on my porch again. They looked older, weaker, humbled. I parked and approached cautiously. Jordan, please. Diane said, we just want to talk. We've learned our lesson. I unlocked the door but didn't invite them in. You have 5 minutes. Inside. They sat awkwardly on the edge of my couch. I remained standing. We're sorry, Diane began. We never should have taken you for granted, Charles added. We've lost everything. The condo, the car. We had to move in with Kyle. We just want to make things right. I waited for an apology that never came. What lesson did you learn? I asked. That we shouldn't have used you, Charles said hesitantly. Wrong, I replied. You learned not to get caught. That's not the same as regret. My voice didn't tremble. I've spent months in therapy, thinking about what family means. what love should look like. This isn't it. What you gave me wasn't family. It was a transaction. Diane's eyes welled with tears. You're going to abandon us over a few mistakes. This isn't punishment. It's protection. Charles stood, anger flickering in his eyes. After everything we've done for you, what have you done for me? I asked calmly. Besides, take and lie? They had no answer. I opened the door. I wish you well. I hope you find peace. But you won't find it with me. Diane looked at me with hollow sadness. You'll regret this. In the end, all you have is family. No, I said. In the end, you have the people who treat you like you matter. I've built that family. You were just a lesson. They stepped into the sunlight and walked away slowly, two shadows of who they once were. And I stood in the quiet, not guilty, not broken, free. I expected peace. Instead, I got silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. No emails, no texts, no unexpected visitors. It was as if Charles, Diane, and Kyle had finally accepted that I wasn't coming back. At first, the quiet felt like victory, but in the absence of their noise, something deeper emerged. Space. Space to think. Space to feel. Space to fall apart. I hadn't realized how deeply the betrayal had cut until one Thursday afternoon when I walked past a family at the park, parents laughing, their daughter, maybe 10, feeding ducks. The father ruffled her hair with unguarded affection. The mother handed her a juice box like it were second nature. I sat on a bench nearby, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. That kind of love, the unthinking, unconditional kind, I had never known it. And for the first time, I let myself mourn not just what I'd lost, but what I'd never had. Megan suggested I take time off work. You've processed the firestorm. But now comes the flood, she said gently. So I did. I put my consulting firm in the capable hands of my senior associate, Marissa, and booked a flight to Florence, Italy, a city I'd always wanted to visit but had never dared prioritize. In Florence, I learned how to breathe again. I wandered the Uffizi Gallery, eyes lingering on Botticelli's brushstrokes. I drank espresso in tiny cafes. I let the Arno River carry away thoughts of invoices and obligation. I wrote in a journal for the first time in years, and I started to understand something profound. I was not angry anymore. I was sad. And then, I was free. 2 weeks after returning home, I received a letter. Not an email, not a text. A handwritten letter, sealed with a trembling wax stamp. It was from Kyle. Jordan, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, and I wouldn't blame you for throwing this in the trash. But if you're still reading, thank you. Living with Mom and Dad has been a reckoning. They haven't changed. Not really. Every day is about what they've lost, not what they did to deserve it. But I have changed. I see it now, how we used to. How I became complicit. I wasn't just a bystander. I laughed at those texts. I deleted messages I should have forwarded. I let it happen. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just accountability. So here's what I've done. I've moved out. I found a cheap apartment. I took on another job. I've stopped enabling them. And I've sent $500 to a local shelter in your name. I know money can't fix what I broke, but I want to use mine better, like you did. I miss you, and I'm sorry. It was the first real apology I'd received. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I read the letter every night for a week, letting the words settle into the cracks betrayal had left behind. Then, I wrote back, Kyle, thank you for saying what no one else would. I can't say I'm ready for anything more than this letter, but I see your effort, and it matters. I hope you continue this path for yourself, not for me. Maybe someday we'll talk again. That same month, I was invited to speak at a women's leadership summit. I almost declined, but Megan insisted. You've survived something a lot of people never talk about: financial abuse. Your voice matters. So I said yes. On stage in front of 400 women, I shared my story, not in detail, but in truth. I spoke of boundaries, of worth, of the courage it takes to say enough. Afterward, a woman approached me in tears. "My brother's been using me for years," she said. "Your story gave me permission to stop." And in that moment, I understood why I'd gone through it. Not just to reclaim my power, but to pass it on. Months passed, seasons changed, and slowly, my world filled with new names, new memories. I started volunteering at a youth mentorship program, helping girls from disadvantaged homes see their potential. I traveled to Spain and then Japan. I wrote an essay about financial abuse in families that was published in a national magazine. My name, Jordan Wright, was becoming known not as a daughter scammed by her parents, but as a woman who had reclaimed her story. And then, one Sunday morning, I received an email with the subject line, "Media Inquiry Wright Family Lawsuit." My stomach dropped. Inside was a message from a journalist named Dava Monroe.ms. "Wright, I'm writing to confirm whether it's true that Charles and Diane Wright are considering filing a civil suit against you for abandonment and financial retaliation. We have received a statement from their lawyer and would love your comment before publishing." I stared at the screen, stunned. A lawsuit. I immediately called Megan. "A bluff," she said after reading the email. "There's no legal basis. You gave them money voluntarily. You owe them nothing." Still, the thought chilled me, that they would rather drag me through court than apologize. I sent Ava a brief reply. "Thank you for your inquiry. I have no comment at this time." But something shifted in me. Their desperation had not waned, it had deepened. Their need to paint me as cruel, even villainous, wasn't about justice. It was about control. Megan filed a formal cease and desist letter against their legal team. Nothing ever came of the threat, but it proved something. They hadn't learned a thing. At the 1-year mark, I visited a small coastal town in Oregon Canyon Beach where sea stacks jutted from the shoreline like forgotten sentinels. I walked barefoot on the sand, letting the wind whip through my hair. I pulled out a shell and wrote my name in the sand. Not for anyone else. Just for me. I watched the waves crash closer, erasing it within minutes. But I didn't feel loss. I felt rebirth. Spring bled into summer, and with it came unexpected calm. My life no longer revolved around apologies I never received or lies I could no longer unsee. I filled my calendar with things I wanted: silent retreats, marketing masterclasses, hikes in Vermont's green hills. And at long last, peace no longer felt like a stranger passing through. It felt earned, until one July afternoon, when I received a letter from an estate attorney in New Hampshire. "Jordan Wright, I am writing to inform you that your grandfather, Henry Wright, recently passed away. Per his will, you have been named as the sole beneficiary of his private estate in Maple Hollow. Kindly contact our office to arrange a reading of the will and a discussion of next steps." I stared at the page. Grandpa Henry, the same man I had only met twice? The quiet carpenter with sawdust hands and kind blue eyes. I remembered the Christmas he gave me a hand-carved box when I was 8, with a tiny J etched into the lid. My parents had scoffed at the useless gift, but I'd kept it, still had it, tucked on my bookshelf. Why me? I called the law office, and 2 days later, I sat in a warm-paneled conference room across from a woman named Linda Foster, who looked like she'd been doing estate law since rotary phones. "Your grandfather left everything to you," she said after confirming my identity. "His home, workshop, savings, and most notably, a locked trunk." She pushed over a brass key on a worn leather tag. "He asked that you open it in private, at the cabin." I felt the key's weight settle into my palm. Maple Hollow was a sleepy town where even the stop signs felt optional. Henry's cabin sat near a lake, shaded by tall pines, its porch sagging under age but full of charm. Inside, it smelled of cedar, and memories. In the corner of the living room, under a faded quilt, was the trunk. I unlocked it, heart thudding. Inside, journals, hundreds of pages. His handwriting is neat and patient. One was labeled, "For Jordan." I read the first line aloud. "I always knew you were the one who would break the cycle." My throat tightened. I kept reading. "Your father, Charles, never understood kindness without conditions. And your mother, Diane, learned to perform love for reward. But you, Jordan, you gave freely, and that is both your curse and your crown. I saw you even when they did not. The entries continued reflections on family patterns, warnings wrapped in love, and a final gift: clarity. He'd left instructions too, to donate his tools to a local trade school, to turn the cabin into a retreat space for women escaping toxic families, to give his dog-eared books a second life in the town library. And one line that made my breath catch: use this place to build your new beginning, not to mourn the old one over the next month. I did just that. I painted the porch. I hosted a writing circle for survivors of narcissistic abuse. I partnered with a local counselor to create weekend workshops. Word spread. Women came. They laughed, cried, and healed. So did I. The cabin, once forgotten, became a sanctuary. And one morning, I received a letter, this time from Kyle. I heard about the retreat. I saw the photos. You look happy, Jordan. Like, happy. I just wanted to say I'm proud of you. And if you ever decide to forgive me, I'll be here. I smiled. I didn't feel pressure, just peace. I wasn't ready yet. But maybe someday. In October, I stood at the lake's edge, the trees ablaze in crimson and gold. The wind was crisp, the air full of coming frost. I thought about everything I'd lost then, everything I had built. Charles and Diane had faded from my life. Megan said they'd moved to Florida. Kyle had sent one more letter, updating me that he'd finished paying off his loans on his own. The past hadn't vanished, but it no longer controlled the present. I closed my eyes and whispered a quiet promise. I will not be what they made me. I will be what I choose. And with that, Jordan Wright stepped into the rest of her life, not as a daughter defined by betrayal, but as a woman who had rewritten her legacy.